Welcome to this JMC weekly webinar. It's July 10th, 2024. It's a warm day here in the upper Midwest. We're going to be talking about using JMC to manage student contacts. My name is Paul Freed. I've been a trainer at JMC for actually a little over 20 years now. Love training schools, love our summer conference, which we just had in Ankeny, Iowa, and in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and love meeting clients, working with folks, helping them manage questions and problems and things like that. And I have the one and only Cheryl Davids with me. Cheryl, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was in the admin secretary or whatever for 14 years, and I did the activities, and so I did some of the bookkeeping part of it, and then the elementary part of it, and the lunch part, and I live in Northern Iowa, and I've been retired for about 4 years.
And even though you're retired, every time I talk to you, you're doing something at the school, it feels like.
I do still like being attached to the school. I've learned to love middle schoolers too.
That's awesome. Hey, that's great. That's a grace. There we go. All right, let's get started. So families play a crucial role in supporting students in various ways. JMC provides the necessary tools for granting families the access they need to assist the students under their care. Effectively managing these contacts is essential to building and maintaining comprehensive student support network. If you have any questions, you can hold them to the Q&A chat feature, or you can type them in anytime. Either way, we probably typically won't get to them until we get to our Q&A slide at the end of each section. Now, the one thing you'll hear me say a few times throughout this training, and the way this is going to go is, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can always fast forward. Of course, if you're watching it live, you cannot. But if you already know how to put contacts in, you probably can quickly go through this next two sections. If you want to know how to manage separated couples and things like that, then that will be that third section that will be coming up here after we get through how we add in a contact and how we attach them. But the thing I tell folks over and over again is that you take one student at a time and you put their contacts in just for that one student. JMC then works everything else out. People tie themselves in knots. They say, well, this kid is a secondary contact to this contact, and also it's the aunt and the uncle. They start talking about all these other kids. I never care about the other kids. It's just, who's the kid are we on? And what are those particular situations? And we'll do some examples of those as we go through. So I'm quickly going to go through the different types of student contacts, how to add a contact, and we'll do some live looks for those. And then we'll get into the separated couples as well. So in JMC, a contact refers to any individual, usually an adult, who communicates with the school regarding a student. These contacts can include parents, guardians, grandparents, aunts and uncles, neighbors, babysitters, health professionals, and others. Contacts are managed through the JMC office or the new family enrollment portal, allowing them to be associated with the students for appropriate data access and facilitating seamless communication between the school and stakeholders. I'm going to also give you some what I think are words of wisdom after working with schools for 21 years as we go through here. So I've worked with a lot of schools, and I think there's some rules that are good to follow. All contacts are stored in JMC Office on the Edit Contacts page, where important demographic information such as names, addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses are available. Contact details can be entered or edited directly on the Edit Contacts page via New Family Enrollment or through JMC Family, allowing families and office members to collaboratively maintain up-to-date contact records. A contact type defines the relationship between a student and a contact. These types are crucial for granting appropriate access to the JMC Family Portal, linking siblings to a household, facilitating groupings for communication purposes, and more. In addition, contact types help office staff identify individuals associated with a student, promoting student safety. So there's a few different types of contacts. We're going to go through them, and I'm going to tell you a few things about each. The first is the primary contact. They are responsible for a student's day-to-day well-being activities. In most cases, these are parents, step-parents, and guardians, but in some cases, they could be grandparents. Primary contacts have access to student information through JMC Family and receive student mailings and emails such as report cards and schedules. These are parents and guardians. These are the folks that people live with 99% of the time. You might have a parent of a student who lives in California who wants to receive report cards, be able to call in the school. They sure can be a primary contact as well. But if you don't want them getting report cards sent home, don't want them getting discipline reports sent home, don't want them to be in JMC Family, they should not be a primary contact. So grandparents who are just, there if the kid gets sick, or aunts and uncles who would pick them up in case of an emergency, those are not primary contacts. Primary contacts are responsible for that day-to-day well-being and activities. Those contacts that we talked about, like aunts and uncles and grandparents, are typically secondary contacts. They're responsible for a student, but not the primary caretakers. Typically, these folks are non-custodial aunts and uncles, grandparents, neighbors, or babysitters. Why do we put those in? We put those in so that we can contact them if we can't get a hold of the parents, or if one of those people comes to the school to pick up a student, they should be in there as a secondary contact. I don't think anybody would release a student to an adult who comes to the school if they're not listed as a primary or secondary, or maybe an emergency contact as well. Then we have emergency contacts, a contact to call when a parent or guardian is unavailable during an emergency. I actually don't see these in schools as much. They're going, I don't want to say the way of the dodo bird, because people do still put them in there. But with cell phones, it's a lot easier to get a hold of families. So I think it's a good idea to have an emergency contact in. I wouldn't spend a lot of people hours trying to garner that information because it's not used very often. But you can allow families to put in emergency contacts during the summer re-registration process. That's what I typically have schools do. So the families are putting in, you're not putting in. The lunch contact is responsible for paying the account balance for a student's meals and a la carte items, or for applying free and reduced status. The doctor is a student's primary care physician. Again, used to be popular, but not as popular anymore. Storm, a student's contact for inclement weather, also used to be popular, but yeah, I mean, typically schools are letting kids out long before they would get stuck in a bus or stuck at school, but you can put that in. And that's the catch-all. Student contacts do not fit into any other categories. This might be like a babysitter who might occasionally pick up the student from school if school's called off early, something like that as well. So then we've got the fee organization contact. This contact is responsible for paying any fees, registration, athletic activity that a student accrues. When applicable, an organization such as a scholarship fund can be substituted as a student's fee contact to permit a non-family member to make payments on a student's behalf. So again, 99% of the time, the parent or guardian's making the fee payments, but in some divorce situations or other situations, you might have somebody else paying the student's fees. All right, then how do we associate contacts with a student on the View Student Data page? The student contact associations allow JMC software to funnel student information to the correct contacts based upon the contact type. The View Student Data page in JMC Office permits the association of up to 10 contacts with a student to ensure schools are able to easily communicate with the most important people in a student's life. So 10 contacts. I've never been to a school yet that has more or wanted more than 10 contacts per student. So here's a couple of things that are helpful on that View Student page. Number one, most helpful, copy contacts. You can quickly and easily copy contacts from one student to another with the Copy Contacts button on the View Student Data page. And then the Change Contact. Associate a contact with the student with the help of the Change Contact button that accesses a list of available contacts from the Edit Contacts page. You got a new student in there, you can copy them or you can change them. So any questions? We haven't got into the workings of the contacts and how we put them in, but any questions about types of contacts and how they're used? Yeah, any questions about those would be helpful. Michelle, do you have any things you want to add to that or any questions?
Nope, I just have a few situations where I think will come up that we can go over. Lynn.
That sounds great. Yeah, I think we can kind of create some fun situations and show how people can manage those. So I don't see any Q&A in there, so we'll keep on rolling. Viewing and editing contact information. Contacts in JMC are parents, family members, and other trusted adults who have close ties to your student. We know all this. We all know this already. So you want to maintain an updated contact directory by editing existing contacts with current addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, and more to ensure complete records and open clear lines of communication. Also remember, families can update their information online. That's the easiest way for you to do it. All right. So if this is the viewing of a contact. To add or edit a family contact record, go to Attendance Contacts, Edit Contact. Step 1, select the existing contact to be edited by entering the name of the contact in the Find field here, or click the Add button to add a new contact name. Typically, I don't add contacts here unless I'm a new school, but I'll talk about that a little bit in the live look. Fun fact, the names of students associated with the selected contact, along with the type of association, are displayed in the students with this contact list to help you identify members of the same family. Step 2, enter or edit the contact name, address, city, and state in the appropriate fields to update the demographic information associated with the contact. Helpful tip, create one primary contact entry that includes both parent names if parents and guardians live in the same address to ensure one mailing. If families live together, if people live together, they should be one contact almost every time. Step 3, enter a username and password in the appropriate fields to provide login credentials to the JMC Family app. And that's new a few years ago, right? Got the username, which copies the last name when you save a new person here. The password here, you can fill that in. I like to have people set their own password. That's a whole different discussion, but that's where the password field is. A family's default username is the last name of the contact. However, this can be updated to avoid confusion for contacts with the same last name if you want. Step 4, enter up to 8 email addresses in the appropriate fields to allow the selected contact to receive emails sent through the JMC messaging tools. Fun fact, when using JMC's messaging tools to send emails to a contact, the message will conveniently include all email addresses associated with that contact. Step 5, enter up to 8 phone numbers for the contact in the phone fields to associate a phone number with the selected contact. Helpful tip, enter a description such as dad's cell or mom's work for each phone number in the description field to easily identify the phone number on the View Student Data page. I'm a big fan of that. Take the extra 10 seconds. It'll save you time in the long run. Step 6, select the appropriate option from the type drop-down list to indicate whether the phone number is home, work, fax, or cell phone. The thing to note here is that you cannot check something as SMS text messaging unless it's marked as a cell phone, just so you know. Step 7, select a numeric rank for the rank drop-down list to prioritize the order in which the phone numbers are contacted. Most people don't do that. You sure can if you want to. I think it's easiest just to put the most important phone numbers at the top and list them in a descending order. Step 8, place a check mark in the appropriate messaging checkboxes, messaging service checkboxes to specify the purpose or category of communication associated with the phone number. If you're brand new to the message center, you can watch that video on using the message center to communicate with people. You can turn these on for all your parents, and parents can check and uncheck these boxes on their own. But if you're in there, you're putting a new contact in, you might as well check them if you know that there's cell phone for the families. SMS is the text message, enables the phone number to receive text messages if the listed number is a cell phone. Emergency weather related includes the phone number in the emergency weather related call group for phone calls sent from the message center. Every phone number of a parent or guardian, and especially their cell phone, should have this listed because almost all messages sent out are emergency weather related. These last two, when we first designed the message center, some schools wanted these, but most schools don't use them. That's okay because they just send everything out as emergency weather related. Why? Because all the messages want to go to all the people that you've selected in the message center. You can do the student lunch related. This includes the phone number in the student lunch related call group for phone calls sent from the message center, or if low balance notices go out there as well. There's no reason not to check them, I guess. It's just they're not used very often. And then the general school information includes the phone number in the general school information call group for calls sent from the message center. Step 9, click either of the save buttons here. There's one here and one at the bottom here to update changes to the contact or add a new contact to your directory. Helpful tip, click either of the delete buttons to remove the selected contact from your directory, or click either of the print buttons to print a hard copy of the contact record. I would not print a contact record here. We'll talk about printing contact records in a moment. I will tell you, you should not delete a contact if the family has been at your school, even if they're not currently at your school, because one of the cool things about JMC is once a contact record is in there, it's that whatever you're editing for this person right here, this is Sam Fescue. If I edit Sam Fescue's record today for the 24-25 school year, and I go look back and look at my 21-22 school year, it'll be the same record. Why do we do that? Because if Sam Fescue's parents call 3 years from now and say, hey, I want a transcript for this kid, and you've got to go back 5 years or 8 or 10 years in JMC and print a transcript, when you print a label, it will have the current address on there. So that's why you never want to delete a contact. Some people say, well, I've got all these contacts in here. Well, my answer to that is use the find screen, right? Every school is going to have hundreds, if not thousands. If some schools might have 10,000 contacts, you shouldn't be scrolling through the contacts. We don't even teach the scroll buttons anymore. I tell you scroll left and scroll right through your contacts, because you just type in the last letters of the last name or the first name. It's going to show you all the contacts and choose that contact. But don't delete contacts unless it was entered by a mistake, and that's fine to enter a contact that was entered by mistake. But don't go in and clean up your contacts by deleting contacts of families who haven't had students at your school, because they are year non-specific. Meaning if I change it this year or delete it this year, it affects all years. So again, use that find box there as well. All right, let's take a live look at adding and editing contacts. So we come in here. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. And I go back and forth about adding contacts on the screen. It's the attendance contacts, edit contacts. There's really two things. You can either enter them when you enter a new student in with the new student wizard, or some people just come in here and they might have this screen open all the time. So they'll come here, all right, I got my view student data screen open here. And I put in a new student in actually with the new student wizard. I put a new student in with the new student wizard. Then I'm coming here, adding the contact in. And then when I come back here, I can attach the contact. I kind of like that idea. I like multiple tabs in JMC. I think it makes it easy to manage the data. But either way, you can add or edit a contact here. So first, let's go to my demo contact. Here's my demo. Here's dad demo. You'll see this is dad demo here. Here's the people who are associated there with that contact. Right? Lots of folks in there as a primary contact in emergency. Tell me it's being used. It's dad demo here. Here's the address. I would actually put this typically up here. There we go. It can go to either place. It really doesn't matter. Oops. Oh, look at that. It's going to use my suggested one there. Lake City, Minnesota. Here's the username. Here's the password, the email, and so on and so forth. So that's how we find a contact. Now, if I want to add a new contact in, I'm going to click. Actually, we'll save this one. I'm going to add a new contact. Okay. And we're going to do this one. It's called Mom and Dad Freed. Actually, we'll do it. Actually, have my parents' name. This is Valerie and Bill. So if they live in the same household, they should go in there, Valerie and Bill. Last name is Freed. Now, if they have different last names, like my mom's name was Valerie Verano, you could do two things. The one I don't like is to put Valerie Verano here and Bill Freed here. You can do this, but it makes it hard to search for the Freeds. So I'm not a big fan of that, but you can do that. Another option to do that is you can do Valerie and Bill, and this would be Freed because that's the first one. Actually, I mixed this up. It should be in this circumstance because my last name is Freed. Bill and Valerie. There we go. Freed. Gotta spell my own last name correctly. And Verano. So that works because when I'm searching, it'll come up with that Freed name will be first. So that's one option that I don't mind. Another option you can do that I kind of like, and you have to think about this, like you're running your JMC database. So you just want consistency from one family to the next. And so another thing you can do is I can say, all right, my last name is Freed. So I'm gonna put Bill Freed here. Oops, sorry, I did that correct. Put Bill and Freed here. And then I can put Valerie Freed here. I think my address when I lived with my parents was 50, it's been a long time, 5302 49th Avenue North. And that's in Crystal, Minnesota. I think it's 55429 if I remember correctly. Oops, that's wrong. It doesn't matter. So this is kind of cool because when it prints a label, it'll say Bill Freed on the top, Valerie Freed underneath, and here is the address line too. So you might be like, well, Paul, why are you giving me all these options? Well, here's the basic rules to note. If they live together and they have the same last name, I do Bill and Valerie. Oops. There we go. Valerie Freed. And I'd put the address right here. Live together, same last name. This is how you do it 100% of the time. If they have different last names, I could put it here, Freed and Verano. This works. If I search then and I look for Freed, I'll see it because it's the first letters of the name. Or I like this option. It's kind of the one that I like because it's Bill Freed and Valerie Verano. But if you don't like that, you can do, like I was saying before, another option, own your JMC, make it work for you. Bill Freed. Let's move this down. Fix that in. And Valerie. Whatever works for you. It doesn't matter to me how you want to be able to do it, but make it work for you. One thing I don't like, this is personal preference, I don't like when people put the names all in caps. I don't like it. I don't think it looks good. I don't think it looks good on labels. I know that some post offices used to tell their schools, this makes it easier for us to sort mail. I don't buy it. I think it's printed on a label. It's not handwritten. Computers read a lot of these things today. So I don't like to see them all caps, because what happens is when parents go online to register or to re-register for the year, a lot of them change them from caps back to lowercase as it is in the English language. And then people just waste time going back and forth. So that I'm not a big fan of that. If your school does it, no shade at all thrown your way. It's up to you. But if I go to a school, I tell them straight up, I wouldn't do that anymore unless somebody's absolutely telling you have to do that. I would slowly switch them from caps to non-caps. You don't have to do it all at once either, because parents don't see each other's names listed. So that is totally up to you. All right. Then I click say, yep.
Hey, Paul, can I interrupt here a second?
Yeah.
One more, that how I like to do it is if the child's name is like Freed, their last name, but so I would put Valerie Villano or whatever.
Yep.
And Bill in the first space and then Freed in the last.
Yeah.
That's one way I always did it. And that way it comes out all in one label nicely.
Yeah.
And then just put Bill on that one. That's what I like to do.
That's another option. Gosh, you are smart. So then just to show what that looks like here, let's look and see here. Because I've not seen a label printed like that. So I'm going to go to attendance, students, mailing labels. We're going to do by random. Who is my kid? It's not a kid. I don't have anybody attached yet. So we'll come back to that. I like it. I'm going to keep it that way. And when I attach a kid to this contact, then we'll go ahead and do that as well. So I really like that. Great job. You can interrupt me anytime. You know, I start talking and I don't slow down very often. So that is a great one, Cheryl. When I click save here, you'll see that the username is listed there. I can change that if I want to be something else. Password you've got to put in, or you can mass assign them. I like just if you're new to JMC, families can come here as long as you have an email address listed for a family. They can click forgot my password and they can reset their password on the family portal there. So that's just an aside. Great. You can enter email addresses in here. You can enter phone numbers in here. I'm not going to do a bunch of them. I'll enter one just so we can see what it looks like. 5-1234. This is a cell phone number. This is mom's cell. And we're going to check. It's not a real cell phone number, so I'm not going to check all these things, but I would check these things and I click save. If it's not a real number, actually it will come up and tell you that this is not a real number, which is pretty cool. And you can put the other phone numbers in here as well. All right. The second thing I say second thing, it's probably the fifth thing I don't like. You know me, I'm a complainer. I don't like when people put grandparents and aunts and uncles in here. I don't like it because then they get phone calls, text messages that they might not supposed to be getting. They should be secondary contacts. If you got an aunt or an uncle in there, I wouldn't, or an emergency contact, doesn't matter to me, but I don't like it when I see aunts and uncles and grandparents in here, because inevitably the school will say, grandma's getting calls at 5:30 in the morning at her assisted living because school's canceled. Yeah, because they're in there as a contact. So we have 10 contacts you can associate to a person. I like to see each person or group of people living together to have their own contacts. The only time when I don't put people on the same one here that are living together is if they are divorced parents that are living together, and then but they still have some kids under dad, some kids under mom. In that situation, sometimes I'll say, all right, well, let's do 2 separate contacts with the same address. And that's okay too. Make it work for you. Great. Any other things you want to add to this since we're on the live look, or should we keep on rolling?
Hey, one more thing.
Yep.
When you go to the description of the phone,
yep,
like for their work,
yep,
I would put like dad's work. And if I could squeeze it in, I would put where they work, because we live near the Winnebago motorhomes are made. And sometimes the cell reception is not good in there. And I could put Bago or Winnebago. And I know it might take a while for somebody to answer,
Sure.
if I got that number.
Yep.
Just something that I know if it's a small office, I know I could get them really quickly. If they didn't answer their cell phone, just different things that come up over the years.
Great. I love it. So that's for that description, right? Because I'm not putting that in for myself. I might know who they are. I'm putting that in for other people who are trying to call those families. So great job. All right. Cheryl, let's go see if there's any questions. If anybody has any questions about contacts and how they're entered, let me know. While we're putting, yeah, well, people might be typing questions, and I want to show you one of my favorite things that's not part of this train is under attendance, contacts, the print contact directory. People don't do it a lot anymore because you can look up phone numbers on cell phones and in James C Teacher and in James C Office. But I think it's a good idea to come in and have a list of your primary contacts printed out every month to a PDF or a paper copy for fire drills and things like that as well. It has every contact listed, the students, their address and phone numbers listed there as well. So attendance, contacts, print contact directory is just the easiest way to see all the students, or all the parents associated with students and vice versa there as well. So, okay. I don't see any questions, so let's keep on rolling. Connecting contacts with students they support. In James C, contacts are linked with students to grant access to James C Family Portal and enable messaging functions tailored to their relationship with the student. On the View Student Data page, users can associate up to 10 contacts with a student for various purposes, such as primary, lunch, or emergency contacts. This ensures that adults who play significant roles in the student's life have appropriate access and communication channels within the system. To get started, attaching students by navigating to the View Student Data page. Step 1, select the student to be edited by entering their name in the Find drop-down list. Now, I'll let you know, this assumes you know how to put a new student in. You've used the new student wizard, and you put a new student in. We go over that in the new users for JMC video of how to add new students in. This is assuming you put a student in, now you want to attach the contact. So step 1, select the student. Step 2, select empty contact from the contacts drop-down list to associate a contact with a student. Or to review or edit an existing contact already associated with a student selected. Select the contact from the drop-down list. Very important. If you're adding a new contact, you've got to choose empty contact. Some mistake people will make is they're trying to put contacts in, they're talking to people and so on. They'll just keep putting contacts over and over and over again in the first, I call it the slot. You got to make sure you're on an empty contact. Step 3, select the appropriate contact type from the type drop-down list to define the contact's relationship to the student. Helpful tip, you can attach up to 10 contacts to a student, including multiple primary contacts for parents or guardians who are connected to a student but live in separate residences and need separate login credentials. Step 4, click the Change Contact button and select the contact to be attached to the student from the selected contact drop-down list. Helpful tip, not seeing the contact, head to Attendance Contacts, Edit Contacts to enter that contact name. Step 5, click the OK button to continue or close button to cancel the contact selection. Step 6, enter a description such as dad or grandma. We've talked about, oh, actually, this is different. This is not the description of the phone number. This is the description of the contact. So this is important. I like this as well. Enter description such as dad or grandma in the description field to further distinguish the relationship between the contact and the student. Is it optional as it says here? It absolutely is. But I would typically put that in there because it's going to help inter-school communication. Step 7, optional, place a check mark in the mailings, in reports, lunch, or tuition fees access checkboxes to include the listed contact in the mailed communication, attendance communication, or to grant access to student lunch or tuition and fee accounts. I will explain all that when we look more at the live look. Helpful tip, need to share a contact between students, just click the copy contacts button, choose a student whose contacts you want to copy, and streamline the contact association process in seconds. Fun fact, if a contact is no longer associated with the student, click the clear button to detach them from the student. Step 8, click the save button to save your new student contact association to the student's record. Let's take a live look. So again, typically we come in here and I'm actually going to show you just how I would do it, right? I'm going to go under edit to new student wizard. I'm going to put a new student in here. And this is going to be new to the district, new student here. And we're going to put this in last name Freed, even though I've got a lot of them. And we'll put my sister in there, Julie Freed. And she's gender, female. I click save. It's going to take me to the add drop screen. And I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to click skip ad for the moment because I'm not putting the ad code in. That's not for this particular training. You would put an ad code in if the student starts pertaining to your state reporting training. Okay, so I've got the student, got the grade level. Let's put this in here as an 8th grader. Now what I do is I come in here. I've already got, oh my gosh, I just clicked off. I'm sorry about that. Let's find Julie here. There's Julie Freed. Accidentally clicked off her. It's getting click happy. Here we go. Here's Julie Freed. Here's a primary contact. Now the first one we know, or we want you to do, is put a primary contact in. So the first one is not going to say empty, because we don't want you to put somebody there that's the secondary contact, aunt, uncle, emergency, because we want this to be the most important person in their life. So it's either the parents or guardians that live together, or if they are divorced parents, who do they stay with the most? If it's equal, well, then you pick one. Whoever's the more responsible parent, right? You can choose there. So I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna click. I could click copy contacts. If I click copy contacts, say it will overwrite this. I could choose my sibling who is Freed, right here, like Paul Freed, and I could copy all my contacts over. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. Click OK. And now what it does, the reason it goes to other, in case I want to add another contact, but it's got my primary here, which I think is Dad Smith. Yep. Here's my lunch contact, Dad Smith, and my fee, right? So that's all that information there. So the copy contacts, really easy way to be able to do that. I'm going to go in and clear these out. Let's save that. And I'm going to clear out my lunch. There we go. And save. And then I'm going to clear out my fee. And save. Okay. So now I'm starting again from scratch. I've already put my contact in on the student data screen. I'm sorry, on the student data screen. On my attendance contacts, edit contacts page. So let's find Freed here. Here's Freed, Valerie Verano, and Bill. Okay, so that's what I've got there. I've already put them in there. So if I didn't want to have this screen open and put it here, you could come in here and click add new contact and put the information right in here. I don't know why I don't like that way as much. Maybe it's just personal preference, but you sure can put it in here if you want to. Like I said, I like to come in just to edit contacts and click save. That's all I'm doing on that other screen. Then I come back to this screen, click change contact, type in Freed. And here is Bill and Valerie Verano Freed. Click OK. The first one's automatically a primary contact, and I click save. So there it's listed as my primary contact. This is going to be the parents. Could be guardians, could be whatever you want. Click save there again. And they're all listed right there. Now, if I come here, I'm just actually going to refresh this screen. I don't know if it'll take me back to Bill and Valerie. Let's see here. Nope, I got to find them again. Freed. There we go. Here we go. And there's Paul Freed listed, or Julie Freed, excuse me, as a primary student underneath this context. So that's how it's all connected. So again, I don't mind going back and forth between the context. It helps keep me understanding what's going on. Now, I'm not going to talk about divorced parents at all yet. We're just talking about single families that have a single parent who the student lives with all the time, or married parents living with all the time as well. We'll talk about divorced parents in a moment. Then if I want to add in an aunt, I come here to empty contact number 2. I'm going to pretend that I've already put all these other contacts in, right? So let's just pretend I've come here, I've added aunts, uncles, and so on. I can come here. Here's it's listed as other. I'm going to put this in as a secondary contact. And I'm going to change contacts. And now I'm going to put in another Freed. Sam Freed. Okay. Sam Freed is a second contact. You can ignore that. I don't have contact information there. It's just demo data. And this is the aunt. And I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to choose another empty contact, and I'm going to put in the grandparents. There we go. And I'm going to come in. I'm going to change that contact. So we've got some other Freeds in here. Sarah and Bobby. There's Sarah and Bob right there. There we go. Sarah and Bob. They are going to be a secondary contact. And they're going to be the grandparents. Now, it just so happens that the grandparents are also the emergency contact. So you could put an emergency contact in if you want. It's totally up to you how your school manages this. But let's pretend that your school says, nope, we want the emergency contacts to be separate. Great, I'll come in here and change this to an emergency contact. Change that contact. They're actually already come up just in case we want to do that. Click OK. Now I click save. And now I've got the primary parents, secondary aunt, secondary grandparents. I could put emergency if I want to. I could also put grandparents in here. Whatever you want to do. Okay, you'll notice I'm not putting the grandparents' information underneath the primary. They've got their own contact listed here. One other thing that I have seen schools do is if you've got somebody connected to the student, like a primary contact, and where this, it's not common, but it does happen more often than not. Maybe a parole officer, a chemical dependency officer, a counselor in some way, where that person wants to be able to go and check and see how a student's doing online. They want to get the student's report card. They want to get discipline reports. You could add them in as another primary contact because they function as helping the student maintain their day-to-day activities. So would I just do that willy-nilly? No, I would not. But if somebody's like, hey, I'm the student's parole officer, we're re-entering them back into your school, I want to, for the next 6 months, get all communications that would go home to parents, great, I can put you in as a primary contact there. Primary contact there as well. Yeah, the last thing is if I go to another Freed here, I'm going to copy the contacts here. I'm going to go to another Freed. That's fine. I've got lots of them in here. Let's go to Tom Freed. Okay. And Tom Freed does everything. Let's say Tom is Julie's brother. This is where the copy contact is super helpful here. And you'll see once I copy a contacts over and they have the same primary contacts, it will list them as siblings down here. So watch this. So I click copy contacts. So it's going to be overwritten, no problem. We're going to find Julie in here. There's Julie Freed. I click OK. I click save. Bada bing, bada boom. It recognizes, because they have the same primary contacts, that the sibling is Julie. So this is cool. If I click on Julie down here, it takes me back to Julie. And now Tom is listed as the sibling. So it's a great way that's how in JMC, when I said JMC does the work of figuring out who's connected to who, simply by having in here these same primary contacts and grandparents, we're good to go. Okay. All right. Anything you want? Actually, let's first go to my slides and see if there's any questions. We're not talking divorced parents. We're talking just regular folks that are double parents living in the same house, or single families living in one house with one parent or a grandparent or whatever it might be, but that we don't have two primary contacts. If you have questions about just entering in a basic contact, Paul, again, why do you do it on the contact screen or whatever it might be, or anything you want over, go ahead and put those in now. Cheryl, any words of wisdom you have about this part that I talked about?
Nope, I like putting it all from the other screen when I put them in it, because that way I just stay right there. Man, I love the copy contacts. That was like a time saver.
Yeah, that copy contacts is really great for being able to. It's a time saver, and then all the contacts are correct as well. So that's helpful. So when you do kindergarten roundup or whatever.
What I do like is there's not just one way to do things. There's more than one way. So if it works good for one white person, one way, it works another for another.
Absolutely, and that's what I say. Own your JMC, right? If you want to put them all in caps, like screw you, Paul. We're putting them all in caps because that's the way our superintendent wants it. Go ahead and do that. I'm not criticizing you by any means. Or you want to do it all on the View Student Data page, go ahead and do that. You want to put the grandparents under the primary contact, you can go ahead and do that. I'm just telling the things that we share, Cheryl, right, is how does it work for us, and how does it work for us when we work with other schools as well. So, all right, we got a good group today, but no questions yet. We must be answering them. So now we get to the divorced parents part. Okay, so what happens is when we have divorced parents, this is the thing that I want to express to folks. And I've got a lot of different things of wisdom we're going to share here. And Cheryl, you can jump in at any time as well. When it comes to divorced parents or separated couples, whatever term you want to use, they're going to have two primary contacts. So like this, we got two primary contacts. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of set myself up here. I'm going to get rid of, the aunt for a moment here to kind of show you what this would look like. Okay, so in this situation, we've got Bill and Valerie are the parents, and we've got divorced parents. So, and actually, I'm gonna edit this contact too. So we're gonna go like this. So we're gonna say this is gonna be Bill Freed now. There we go. So actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to start over and clear all these out. There we go. All right. So I'm going to start over. All right, here's Julie Freed. Julie Freed's first contact is Bill Freed. You know, actually, Cheryl, I know that you said you like to add the context on this one page. I think the reason I like to do it both is it helps me to teach it more easily, right? Because then I can go back and forth and I can look at the content. All right. So Julie has divorced parents. Bill Freed is the dad. Julie lives with Bill during the week. On the weekends, goes home to mom, who's Valerie Freed. So we come in here. I've added the contact in here. Here's Bill Freed. And actually, I'm going to come in. I'm going to add another contact right away. And this is going to be Valerie Freed. Address is going to be 33292 County 7 Boulevard. And that's going to be in Goodhue, Minnesota. There we go. Okay. And then we can have other phone numbers and so on and so forth there, but you already know how to handle that. So now I've got both of the divorce contacts in. So what we'll do is come into student data, got my first primary contact. I come in and I'm going to just show you how to enter them first. Then we're going to talk about all the things you can do with them. So I'm going to come in here, change a contact. This is going to be Freed. There's Bill Freed. I click OK. He's automatically listed as a primary contact. And then sometimes what I'll do in here, I'll put in here dad, and then maybe like custodial. That's one thing I'll put in there. Or dad Monday through Friday. That's not, you can do whatever you want with the description. And we click save. Now, then when I put in mom, I come here to empty contact number 2. And I'm going to say, all right, this person's going to be a primary. And we're going to change contacts. I'll put in Valerie Verano. Did I not save her? Let's see here. Oh, Valerie Freed. Nope, I want a different name there. You could have the same name, but I'm just going to do this because I think it makes it easier for teaching. Verano. There we go. That's why, again, I like to have this different screen. Well, there's already a Valerie Verano in there. I must have put her in. So let's put in Valerie Verano. There we go. Keep that. There we go. Valerie Verano. Okay. So now, let's try this again. VAR. There's Valerie Verano. Okay. We click OK. She's primary contact. This is mom. This is going to be Saturday through Sunday, whatever you want there. Again, it could be weekends, doesn't matter to me. And now we click save. So now what happens is, here's dad. The first thing James C is telling you, this person has 2 primary contacts. That's what this 1 of 2 means. You haven't seen that yet because I haven't showed you. This is 1 of 2 primary contacts, 2 of 2 primary contacts, right? Just like that, 1 of 2 and 2 of 2 primary contacts that are listed there as well. So that's how we handle those divorced parents in a straight, hey, separated couples situation there. Now, the other thing is when you start to add in, so that's that. Cheryl, anything you want to add about that? It's pretty straightforward for mom and dad. Anything about from you?
Nope. And the only thing we would do is like we put 50-50 under the description. You know,
if they're shared.
Yeah, if they're shared.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yep. So then you know.
Yeah, it's
would
like
you put other percentages? Would you put like 30-70 ever, or is this just saying that it's 50? Is that the only reason?
Yeah, a lot of ours were just 50-50. They'd be 1 week and then the next week with the other. So
got it. Oh, that's cool. Great.
Yeah.
Making it work for you. Great. Okay. All right. Then the next thing to note is that as soon as I come in and in a regular school, you're going to start to add in lunch contacts. You can watch the lunch training on this, but there's a way that you can make all the primary contacts a lunch contact. Who's paying for lunch? Who's filling out the free and reduced application? I'm not going to go through that whole process. I'm just coming down here. I'm going to say, I'm going to come down to empty contact number 6, and I'm going to make a lunch contact. And I'm going to make it dad. Okay. So I'm going to change the contact. Freed. Okay. Here's Bill Freed. It's going to be the lunch contact. And let's say that dad also pays for the any fees we have at the school. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to change the contact. Okay. Make this my fee contact. Okay. So there's ways in JMC. Oh, I did not mean it. Yep, there we go. There's ways in JMC to make it so that you can make all primary contacts a lunch contact and all primary contacts a fee contact. But I'm just showing you how to do it one by one because it's easier to show what my next thing is. Because here's what happens. Dad, by virtue of being the first primary contact and the lunch and the fee contact, you can only have 1 lunch and fee contact. Why is that, Paul? Well, because the way the USDA works is there's only 1 adult that applies for free and reduced status, for we call it lunch status, for every kid, even if they have divorced parents and even if they're 50-50, only one adult applies for free reduced lunch. That's the person we call in charge of that student's lunch account overall. But in that situation, maybe dad pays for half the lunch and mom pays for half the lunch. So now you'll see when I switch to primary mom, there's two new boxes here, lunch access and tuition fee access. If I want mom to be able to log on, I'm going to just say this one time so you understand it. I'll say it twice so you understand it clearly. If you want mom to log on and see what the lunch balance is and make online lunch deposits, if you do online payments, you click lunch access. If you want mom to log on and see what the tuition and fees balance is and or make a deposit online, you check these right here. They don't see all the transactions. And the reason we put that in there is that there are many situations, it's where the sticky situations, where mom and dad, they don't quite get along. So one of them is in charge of lunch and the other one just has to pay every other week. They're not seeing all the things that are going on. So I'll repeat it again. If either of these boxes are checked, this contact can go in and see the lunch balance or the tuition fees balance and make a deposit. If they are not checked, click save, and they will not be able to access that information. So let's say in this situation, yeah, mom's 50-50. She wants to be able to make deposits. We're going to allow her to do that. Now, you might find out mom calls the school and complains and says, hey, I can't see all the kids that my kid is eating, Julie's eating. It's like, well, this is the way JMC does it for privacy, to make sure that since you're not the main person on the lunch, well, I'm 50-50, blah, 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 blah. Great. If you want to talk to your husband, your ex-husband about that, you can figure out who you want to be the main person. I'm not getting into that. This is the way we have it set up. You can see the balance. You can make a deposit, whatever you want to do. I encourage secretaries as much to stay out of that as you can. Give yourself a self high five if Paul's giving you permission to do that. Now, that's those extra boxes. You'll see though on every primary contact, we also have the in mailings and reports. These are going to stay default checked for 99.9% of your primary contacts. Mailings are printing mailing labels and so on and so forth. Reports are like report cards, things that you would send out about a student's progress. Why do we have these in there? Because you might have a primary contact. So let's say, I'm going to get into the next situation here. Let's say that mom and dad, we're getting complicated. We're married. Actually, let's say this. Bill was married to another person. And that person, they got divorced and now lives in California. Her name is Susie Swagert or so whatever it might be. So you come in here, we're gonna add a third primary contact in. Okay, we come in here, I'm gonna change contacts. Okay, I have Susie in here. Oh, S-U-S, there we go. We'll go Susan Smith, Sue Smith. Sus Smith, interesting name, that's all right. Click OK. This is gonna be another primary contact. And this contact is actually the biological mom, bio mom, let's see if I can fit it, non-custodial. Mom lives, the biological mom lives in California. So just pretend California. She wants to make sure that she receives report cards home, but she doesn't need, when I print a mailing label and I'm just sending out like, we got parent teacher conferences and so on and so forth. You can uncheck that and save that. This means that mom, this non-custodial mom, she's non-custodial. She doesn't have lunch access, doesn't have tuition fee access, but when I send reports home to families, report cards or email report, whatever it might be, she's going to get that there. That's why we have these boxes listed. Not utilized very often, but I'm just going to keep it the same. Actually, we'll keep it unchecked for now. So now I'm into an interesting situation. I've got dad. So what this is, we got biological mom, and then dad and mom were married, and then they got divorced. So now that's where we get this interesting one. Now, here's the thing that I will say, and I repeat this many times. When people say, well, now how's it connected to this other kid, right? We've got Tom in here. Tom has a whole different situation. Tom's this, and people will explain this over the phone. It's divorced and together, remarried, and so on. I don't care about any of those things. And you shouldn't care about any of those things. What I care about is who is Julie Freed's contacts. Julie has a biological mom that's not custodial and a dad and a mom who are married. This is not the biological mom, but now dad and mom, by virtue of court order, have 50-50 custody of the student, even though mom's not the biological parent. That's set up, great. That's how it's set up in JMC. That's how you're going to keep it. When you say, well, what about Tom? Tom is the kid of Bill and Valerie. Well, how do I handle that? It's not the biological mom. Okay. I say, well, number one, we don't worry about how Tom's related to Julie at all in this situation. We have Julie set up. Is Julie look good? Julie looks great. Now let's go to Tom. How is Tom set up? Tom is set up to have the primary as Bill Freed. Yeah, that's his parent. So the parents here, the description is dad, 50-50. Great. Now, who's the mom? The mom's not the biological mom. I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to clear these out real quick here. There we go. Clear these out. Go. There we go. So we got dad, biological, primary 50-50. Now we go to mom. And we're going to change the contact. This is Valerie Verano. D-A-R-A. There we go. We're going to click OK. And she is a primary contact. Mom. 50-50. Okay. There we go. So now we've got dad, 50-50, mom, 50-50. Biological mom's not in there. Why? She's not part of the picture. She doesn't need to be. I don't care about how the siblings are connected. JMC takes care in the background to know that Julie is a sibling. Why is Julie a sibling? Because Julie has the same primary contact or contacts as Tom does. So that's how we list it there as well. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing that can be interesting to show you how this works. And then we can see if Cheryl has any questions or any other things that we want to look at there as well. Let's say in this same situation, mom, let's just to keep it simple, we'll keep it gender. The gender is the same. In this situation, mom pays for Julie's lunches. Dad does not. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say that lunch contact, that's not dad, that's mom. So I'm going to change this contact. We're going to change this to Valerie Verano. Okay. I'll click OK here. This is mom. And we click save. So now what I've got here is I've got in here, dad is one contact, mom is the other. We got the biological. Who's the lunch contact? Mom. Mom pays for everything lunch. Mom does everything lunch. Dad doesn't do anything. Okay, great. So I go back to dad. Dad doesn't have any lunch access. Don't want to have lunch access. Dad doesn't have anything to do with Julie's lunch. If I go to Tom, dad pays for Tom's lunch. So I come in here, I go to my contact here. I change this to my lunch contact. Change contact, put in dad Freed or Bill Freed. Click OK. This is dad. Click save. There we go. So now I know when I go to Tom, he's got a dad that's 50-50, a mom that's 50-50, and dad pays for lunch. Great. If I go to the mom, you're going to see I don't got that lunch checked. Mom doesn't have anything to do with lunch. When I go to Julie, a little more interesting. Dad's 50-50, mom's 50-50, the biological mom, non-custodial, right? She's just getting, all she's getting is a sort of report card sent to her in California. And then the lunch is mom. Mom pays for lunch. Dad doesn't pay for lunch. If I go look at dad, there's no lunch access. So if there's one thing I can impress, it's the first tidbit of information I gave in the beginning. One kid at a time and put their context in as they should be. And JMC works out the rest. We put those siblings in and those particular contacts in there. So I'm going to go to one more option here. Let's say that these two kids have another sibling. And the sibling is connected by mom, Valerie, not by mom. Because when mom married dad, mom had another kid in a previous marriage. So we're going to go to another kid here. And it's a Verano is the last. I'm going to come in here. We're going to find somebody who doesn't have anything here. Or maybe not. There we go. This is Sarah. We're going to change it to Verano. Verano. Okay. So here I've got another situation. I've got Sarah Verano. Now, Sarah Verano is again the biological daughter of Valerie Verano. I don't care anything about Bill Freed. I don't care anything about siblings. I don't care about any of those things. Who's in charge of Sarah Verano? Okay, I'm going to change my contact. It is Valerie Verano. She clicks OK. And she's the primary contact. She's just the mom. And I click save. And there we go. Okay, so now it will say that it fills out the siblings. Why? Because Tom has a primary contact of Valerie, and so does Julie, right? So that's the cool thing of how we start to work out those things listed there. I don't have Mr. Freed in there. I don't have any of those other things. It's listed right there. So that was a lot. Cheryl, other things you want to add or other different interesting situations? And please don't take offense if I have said interesting or not normal. I don't mean any of those things. I just mean that, the most of the folks fit into some regular categories of just, hey, they're living together or they're divorced. That's the most. But how do we deal with these interesting situations in a way that makes it easy for families to access the information they need? It makes it easier for you to communicate. So you're not in the middle again, trying to manage, separate couples who don't get along. So Cheryl, any other things you want to add?
I think you covered everything I had over 14 years.
Hey, that's not too bad. And that's why actually, we put the time into this particular video there. So I'm going to show one more thing, see if anybody has any questions. If you have any questions, type them in now. And that was this, two things. Well, first of all, the attendance contacts, that print contact directory. This is just a great way to go through and see, all right, if I go down to Verano, it's a little bit of a double check here. There we go. Valerie Verano has 3 kids attached, Sarah, Julie, and Tom. If I go to Freed, Bill Freed, Tom and Julie, it's a double check. Not that anything's wrong, but you can check that in that way. We were going to check the mailing labels. So we're going to check the mailing label for Julie Freed. No, did we change it? We changed that already, didn't we? So let's do it for Millie Freed here. So I'm going to go to Millie Freed. If you have questions, go ahead and type them in. I just want to see how Millie looks. So I wanted to look at that contact there. So here's mom and dad Freed. Here's what place I'm going to come in. I'm going to edit this contact right here. And we're going to change this to Paul. No. Sarah McElmurray and Paul. Save that. So that's how it looks. So that looks great. I go to mailing labels. I've not done this before, so you gotta be patient with me here. If I see how it looks, I'm trusting Cheryl here. Of our EID. Here's Millie. Let's see what it looks like here. I'm actually gonna let's keep it at 8. Sarah Mac. Oh, look at Cheryl Davids. You are a genius. That is awesome. So that's just another way to be able to do that, because again, working with schools for 20 years, parents get geeked out and they get frustrated when the mailing label doesn't look correct. That's the only time they really see their name in print. And so that's why I want to make sure that looks good. So that is a great option there as well. So I think we covered it all. I'm just trying to think before I wrap this up. Oh, there's a question that came in. Cheryl, I'll look at that here. Yeah, I think that's all I have about contacts. Because we're not going to talk about merging contacts and things like that, because families can do all that online. If you haven't, before you go to that question there, Cheryl, if you haven't done so yet and you haven't turned on the summer online re-registration, right? You can go to our YouTube channel, click on videos, you can search or scroll down to, all about the back to school online registration process. That's where families are filling out their information online. So you don't have to do this. So that's helpful in that way. So Cheryl, are you able to look up that question, or you want me to?
Yeah, if you want to, I think you kind of addressed it, but we'll read it again. So Melinda was wondering, when you have multiple primary contacts for one student, how do you just designate who's responsible for online registration?
Great question. Oh, that's a great question. So here's the deal with this. And this is where it's a little bit tricky, and what I tell folks is that, I hope I mean this super sincerely. Like sometimes you end up being a counselor for families, right, that are not getting along. And What happens, because they don't get along, right? What happens is anybody who is a primary contact, and let's go back to Julie Freed. So anybody who's a primary contact can log in and re-register the student. Okay, great question. How would I handle this situation? Well, first, I would go to bio mom, the biological mom, and I probably would just say, you know what? I'm not going to put in a password for mom to log online, because we don't want mom going in and changing information for her student or whatever. So that biological mom who's not connected, other than to know that she gets reports sent home, she's not going online. So that's what I would do for this. If parents don't have a password, they can't log on and do that. You also could, yeah, that's probably how I would do that. She probably doesn't want to anyways, but you do run into a situation where I've got divorced parents here. Okay. And let's go to Tom, just to, so I don't have that third one. Here we go. Dad, mom. They can both log on and update information for the student. We can't lock one of them out because they're both primary contacts. So you might get parents putting in different information about a student. So in most situations, families get along, separated couples. And so you put them, they put them in and they do their best, or they say, hey, I'm going to put this information for my student, or you are, or whatever. And they do that. And that works just fine. You've got some situations, 3 families in your school, separated couples, they don't get along. In fact, they fight in the online stuff, sending information in. In that situation, you got to be a little bit careful, meaning that dad could send some information in and mom. So when you get to the time here, and this is in that online registration, when you get there and you're bringing information in, JMC, family, online registration, merge data for student data, when they come in, you've got, let's say John and Emily are divorced. I'm just going to accept this here. I'm going to wait till they both send it. I just know that's how schools work. They send, I'm going to look to see what they each sent in, and I might accept some from one and some from the other. I know that sounds tricky, but what I tell folks is that it's the same if you did it on paper. If I send to a family here, if I send home paper documents to, I didn't want Julie here, who do I want? Tom, to Tom's parents, to Bill and Valerie, they're both getting paper copies and they're both going to send them in, and you have to put them next to each other and say, are these the same? Are we keeping, and so on and so forth. It's the same online as well. We don't have a way to merge that data. I would just say, hey, make a little note to everybody. Hey, we got these 3 families, the McElmurrays and the Freeds and the Johnsons. When their information comes in, I'll just take a look and see what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep. So we don't have a surefire way to do that. And I always tell folks, if you've been part of any trainings I've done on online registration, the goal of online registration is to make life easier for 95% of your families to send 95% of their data. Why? Because that other 5%, you need some time to work on to figure that out. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. These divorce situations, you got a little extra time to be able to do that. So great. Any other questions, Cheryl?
One popped up here.
Great.
Do all the primaries show up in the progress dashboard?
Do all primary show up in the progress dashboard? That I think that she is talking about under JMC family, online registration, the merge data. I'm guessing they would all show up here. Families, let's see if it's going to let me log in here. I'm changing some things. Oh, that's awesome. 2023 is over. I got to log out and go to 2024. Here we go. That's a great one. Each primary contact can log into the JMC family portal, go to register for 24-25, and they will each see the information that's listed here. So this is the progress dashboard here. So that's what I would say there as well. So yes, both primary contacts can. In the progress dashboard where it shows if they've signed forms. So let's see here. In the progress dashboard, when I go to sign forms, I can see for myself the contact. I have to sign it for myself as a contact. Each primary contact would have to sign. I believe the student signature, if they sign on one parent portal, I believe it will show in the other one as well, because students can also add the signatures in their student portal. So my understanding, I've never tested this to be honest, is that if a student signs it, the signature will show up here. If a student signs it here, it will show up in both parents and the student side there as well. So it's pretty slick in that way. But I've never tested it. You'd have to test it out to make sure. But I know it goes from the student to the parent there as well. Great questions. And, I also tell folks, sometimes when parents get really complainy and they ask a question, you're like, I'm not quite sure. I have people log in as the parent, like set it up the way you think it's supposed to be and log in as that parent in the family portal. You can do that. You're not going to see anything that you can't see in the JMC office program anyways. Log in and see that information. And then you can, before you email back, you'll be like, yep, it's all set up for you. You can make online payments now in the lunch, when you check the lunch access, before you're like, oh, I hope it works. It's doing what I say it's going to do. I would log in, I would check this, log in as Valerie, and then come back and then when I email and say, yeah, you can make lunch spots now, you sure can go ahead and do that. That does remind me of my last comment. If there's no other questions, and there's this: families that have the same last name and username will not be able to log in. So what happens is, if you have a divorced family, and this is so rare, I probably shouldn't even mention it, but I'll mention it. If Bella and Valerie get divorced and they have the same username and password, sometimes families say, I can't log in. Well, it's because they have the same username and password. So if you are separating divorced parents, Bill and Valerie, you want to make sure that Valerie's username, because right now her username is Freed, even though her last name is Verano, because that's what it carried over for. If her password is Freed, she would not be able to log in. You'd have to change one or the other. Super minor. That's typically when you reach out to tech support to help us there as well. So, Shell, I think we did a great job. Pat on the back. And again, what's the one rule? Take each student and just take care of their contacts, and JMC will work out the rest there as well. All right, JMC news and upcoming events. We've got some great July and August webinars coming up, including tackling enrollment procedures for incoming and outgoing students. This is great for basically adding students, re-entering new student wizard. That's a great one for anybody who's new. Lunch and Learn, 7:24, Nebraska State Reporting Roundup, 7:31, and then the Minnesota State Reporting Roundup. I can't express enough. If you do state reporting in your state, you have to attend or sign up to watch the video of the state reporting roundup in your state. I still get requests and training. People say, hey, can you come to our school and train on state reporting? My answer is always this: the video has JMC trainers, Minnesota or Iowa or Nebraska or Wisconsin Department of Ed trainers. And our programmers are typically on there as well. It's a whole team of people teaching you how to do state reporting. That is so much more efficient, and you're getting so much more information than if you had just a person come to your school. So these trainings are the go-to for your state's state reporting training. All right, our contest is equals your chance to deepen connections. Enter JMC's Community Messenger contest, where you could score a communication strategy sesh with best-selling author, international speaker, and expert on human connection, Joe Beckman, by day, and bonfire chat with the community by night. Grab the details by clicking on there. If you go to the description of this video in YouTube, or you'll get this also, this will be emailed to you. You can click on this link and it will take you right there. With the first day of school just around the corner, we'll be calling your office in August to answer any questions and walk you through the handy start of the school year checklist, where you can easily track and complete to-dos in JMC. Until then, you can read about the checklist here in our great handy dandy article. All right, from bell schedules to instructional minutes, meals, and more, your school has a ton of data to navigate to submit to the state. For a smooth reporting, explore our info-packed YouTube playlist, including by state: Nebraska reporting, Iowa reporting, Wisconsin reporting, and Minnesota reporting. And again, we're going to be updating those as we come in here to August. Learn how to get new staff up to speed in JMC Office and JMC Teacher through 6+ resources, including our comprehensive new user series on the YouTube, in-app support chat, and more. Ready to take the load off the training process? Then press play on this video. On behalf of myself and Cheryl Davids and the entire JMC training team, thanks for your time today, and thank you for choosing JMC. And have a great summer.